So, Miki, a lot of people have picked up on the Peter Pan imagery and symbolism in the show, since it's literally in the show and talked about on the show, and they're using the Lost Boy names. However, of course, there is more than just the surface level stuff. And so we are here today to talk about a brilliant insight you had watching the last video and a couple other things. But you found another Peter Pan. So why don't you tell everyone what the hell that you figured out here?
All right, I'm going to name off some attributes, and I want everyone to imagine what character comes to mind. He doesn't age. He's in charge of the Lost Boys. He runs Neverland. He has an adversary with one hand. He plays games, and he doesn't value human life. And if you thought about Peter Pan, you're correct. If you thought about Kirsh, you're also correct, because Kirsh is Peter Pan. He is.
That's right. And this is a twist because obviously Kavalier's Peter Pan. But the thing about literary influences and parallelism is that you can apply these themes to more than one character. And sure enough, Kirsh is doing Peter Pan stuff. He's even clean shaven. He's got the boyish anime hair, And like you said, yeah, he's forever young. And he's kind of doing all the same stuff that Kavalier's doing.
He is. Knowledge is power. Kavalier, his knowledge is power. Literally, he created a company off his knowledge, right? He is the child prodigy.
And when you talk about knowledge is power, you're talking about the idea that Peter Pan sort of controls the information that the Lost Boys have, right?
Yeah. So in the book and the movie, whatever Peter Pan tells the Lost Boys is true for them. So for example, there's a set of twins in the Lost Boys gang. Now, they don't know they're twins because Peter Pan doesn't know what twins are. Like, he just doesn't. Also, Peter Pan doesn't like parents. So then he uses that to convince the Lost Boys that they also don't like parents. So whatever Peter Pan believes in, whatever he knows is what the Lost Boys know. So he controls them, not only like mentally, but that's how he controls them physically on Neverland Island.
And so we've seen Kavalier do that for sure with the kids. We see Wendy slightly under the thrall of his propaganda, Curly more so, Isaac a little bit. They are children with very limited information. Nibs is trying to figure out if she's alive or not. They aren't really told what's going on. But then Kirsh is sort of doing the same thing, isn't he?
He is. So in the first episode, we see him and Dame sitting with Wendy. And he and Dame are discussing what Wendy is, what she should know, like right in front of her, as he's in charge of their education. So it's like he's making these decisions for them, how they should feel, right? Who are they? And it continues when he starts giving them little lessons about they were prey when they were humans, and now that they're predators, right? So then the hybrids themselves start questioning their own humanity. Wendy starts asking the questions, what does it mean to be human? Do I want to be a human if this is what that means? And then we see Nibs also starts to answer that question for herself when Nibs commits murder.
Joyfully.
I mean, to be fair, Mr. Strawberry is pretty cute, and I would also be upset if my stuffed animal was thrown into the ocean, so.
Oh, you knew it was all bad news from there. Once they put their hands on Mr. Strawberry, it was all going downhill.
It was over. It was all over.
It was over. And we should note that Nibs killing with glee, with delight. And she had the same rapturous look on her face when Wendy's pet xenomorph was killing all the soldiers. She, oh, this is amazing. Then she growls like the xenomorph, so she's all about that life.
That's an example of Nibs learning from somebody else. So it's not that the xenomorph's a parent, but the xenomorph is bigger, stronger, almost, higher on the food chain, I think. So to Nibs, she's looking up at the xenomorph. So it's almost like a monkey see, monkey do situation. And she did.
And we're here to talk about Peter Pan, but I did think of Chucky a little bit with this redhead girl with the redheaded doll that was just like killing people. I was like, are we supposed to think of Chucky here? But yeah, let's stick with the Peter Pan. So we chatted last night and you mentioned this thing, Kirsh is kind of like Peter Pan. So then I rewatched the episode and I noticed they are playing friggin' playful panpipe music when Kirsh is in the little hallway redirecting the kids. And that was the bomb drop when they thought they were caught. And he's like, the beach is that way. He didn't do the pose, but redirected them. And yeah, there's this playful panpipe music like, oh, what's going on? It's all mischievous. And it's like, yeah, this guy is Peter Pan. We just didn't recognize him because he's so low key and understated in his sort of emotional tenor.
It's true. And Kirsh, the reason why I started suspecting that Kirsh could be Peter Pan is when he started going, head to head with Morrow. When we see them have their little face off, their little spat in the elevator, we see that Kirsh is literally bringing up the topic that, cyborgs are outdated. How long do you have left? So in the movie and in the book, Captain Hook is taunted by a crocodile who has eaten his own hand because Peter Pan cut off Captain Hook's hand and fed fed it to the crocodile. And what's also inside the crocodile is a ticking clock. So what is forever haunting Captain Hook is time. So maybe time is literally haunting Morrow as well.
This is really good symbolism that the original Peter Pan has done. A crocodile is a great symbol for death, time. You think of like the Indian Kali. She is a complex goddess, but a lot of her depictions are very terrifying and gory and bloody. She represents the idea that time is waiting there for all of us at the end. And so Kali exists outside of time. The crocodile is I think the Egyptians use a crocodile in that kind of way. We could even maybe look up some Egyptian mythology to see what's behind there. But yes, that's perfect. The ticking of time coming for Captain Hook. So that's baked into the original story. And just in case anyone missed it, like Morrow is Hook. He's a pirate. He's got the missing arm. And we think he wants to kill Kavalier. It's like, oh, Captain Hook wants to kill Peter Pan. But Kirsh is also doing a Peter Pan thing. And it is actually Kirsh and Morrow going head to head. So you were saying the second thing that clued you on to this connection.
So continuing on with Morrow. In the book and film, Peter Pan cut off Captain Hook's hand. Captain Hook is obviously upset about this. But Smee, his first mate, is comforting Captain Hook. He's like, it was just a joke. It was just a game that Peter Pan cut off your hand. Like, it's no big deal. And Captain Hook is like, yeah, you're right. It was just a game. But then he fed it to the crocodile. And like, that's what he's upset with because the crocodile is like constantly coming after him. And so that made me think about Kirsh and Morrow, right? Like, cut off the hand. Clear metaphor. Okay, Peter Pan was playing a game. Kirsh is playing a game. And that made me think about what his end game was. Because we see Kavalier and Kirsh talking about iBug, like, oh, but what does iBug, what does he get out of messing with Toodles? And I thought about Kirsh and I was like, well, what does he get from messing with Toodles and allowing the slightly Morrow situation play out? And I think it's because it's just a game. Because Peter Pan in his film and his book, that's all he wants to do. Is nothing has consequences, everything's for the game. Like that's it. Like people die or the Lost Boys die, it doesn't matter because it's all pretend anyway. Just like Captain Hook's hand being cut off. It was just a game. Like it's fine.
And so I think in this story, the games are basically all the mad scientist experiments that all the different characters are running. They are doing these experiments. And Kirsh, you pointed out the lines at the end of the episode. It really pops that Kirsh is playing a game. He says, drop your weapons, nobody likes a sore loser. And then he says, finders keepers about the aliens. So these could be Peter Pan lines. And even him standing in front of all the soldiers, it's like Pan standing in front of all of his, outcasts and lost boys. Proud as can be, haha, I won, finders keepers. Like it really clicked in for me.
And Kirsh, with this slightly Morrow game, only came in to fuel the fire by giving Slightly and Smee better directions to go to the beach, and then came in like as a winner. Like, and that's such a Peter Pan move. Like he's not going to do all the dirty work, but he's going to come in when it counts.
Absolutely. And, ruminating on this further, it occurs to me what the show might be doing is playing with the idea of Peter Pan's shadow. Because, of course, the shadow is almost like its own character in the story. It gets caught in the nursery by the dog, and then he's separated from it, and Wendy's got to sew it back to him. It's a whole thing. And obviously, it's a Jungian shadow idea. And when we talk about Pan, not Peter Pan, but the god Pan that Peter Pan is inspired by, and all these horned gods like Dionysus, Cernunnos, the Green Man, they all have this mischievous trickster element that can turn into genuine chaos and evil in the worst incarnations of it. And even the idea of the Christian devil is a mutated version of this mythology. That's why a lot of times the devil looks like a goat. It's got the goat horns and all that stuff.
When you say Peter Pan's shadow, that reminds me of the dark side of Peter Pan. And
yes.
In the movie and book, there's the quote about him calling the Lost Boys, which is, and when they seem to grow up, which is against the rules, Peter Pan thins them out. Now, it is vague as to what Peter Pan does, but I'm assuming nothing is off the table. On one hand, he directly sails Wendy and her brothers back, so they wanted to grow up. He takes them back to London. But on the other hand, Peter Pan does love games, and I don't think it's a stretch to say he wouldn't stop playing if a boy on his team got hurt. So he would be calling out, the boys who couldn't hang. He would set up a situation. If they didn't make it, they didn't make it, which is kind of what Kirsh did with Slightly and Smee and Morrow.
And with Isaac too.
Yeah, with Isaac too. Like, he knew what was going on. He watched it on his 4K tablet and didn't do anything until, he wanted the game to intensify when he stepped in and gave the directions to the beach. But
so that's exactly what I was trying to get to, essentially, is like Kirsh is the shadow of Peter Pan, and the shadow is the more devious aspect of it. It is the more sinister aspect. And this fits the idea that, like, Kavalier is this, he's very charismatic and he's boisterous like Peter Pan. And then we have Kirsh, who is very measured, he's mellow, he bides his time, he waits, he never moves in a hurry. And that is very much like a shadow. Like, he's quiet, he's silent, he's moving unseen, but he's doing all the Peter Pan stuff. And also, Kirsh always wears gray. He literally looks like a shadow.
He does. It's a super good observation. And I just want to point out, with the culling of boys who grow up, if we look at Toodles was growing up. Toodles renamed himself. He wanted to become a scientist, and he purposely went against Kirsh's request that Curly accompany him to the lab. And then when Boy Kavalier calls what happened in the lab an accident, Kirsh says it was not an accident. And then when we jump to Morrow and Slightly's crying to Morrow like, I couldn't help what happened. I tried so hard. Morrow stops him and says, well, adults take responsibility. So that just led me to think about children have accidents and adults do not. Isaac wasn't a child anymore, so it wasn't an accident. And Slightly is still a child. He couldn't take responsibility.
Yeah, and they're also using that quote to highlight the irresponsibility of the adults who aren't taking accountability for their mistakes and accidents, like Kirsh and Kavalier, who are just like shrugging here. And yes, I did think about that culling quote. They read it a couple episodes. I thought about it with Isaac because he is growing up too much. And I don't think that means he was killed intentionally by Kirsh. I think it's more like what you were saying. Isaac is part of the experiment, and that's what happened. Science happened to Isaac. Love that quote. Like, what happened to Isaac? Science happened to him.
It was so cold. And then Cavalier's like, oh, there's $6 billion down the drain. And it's like, okay, wow, that wasn't a being. That was just $6 billion. That's insane.
No, Cavalier's a monster. He's a complete sociopath. They've definitely shown us that. And Kirsh is a sociopath in the sense that, like, he's an android. He doesn't have human emotions. We call a person a sociopath when they lack empathy and stuff, but he's literally an android. He doesn't have empathy. So it's less evil. It's just his nature. But it sort of maps onto the sociopathy of Kavalier. And then the final thing about Kirsh and death and letting some of these kids die and stuff. The Horned God, by the way, here's my Horned God t-shirt. In many versions, he's literally the lord of the underworld. And so he rules the dead. This is a big thing. So we see Kirsh not only wearing gray and being like a shadow, like an underworld version of this Horned God. You'll notice he takes Morrow captive underground. That whole scene is underground. And then him taking people captive is like the Lord of Death, keeping you in prison in the death realm. So they've really developed the symbolism a lot. Like you pointed out last night, and I've just been thinking about it since then. I mean, it just keeps giving and giving. So where this is leading potentially is like, okay, if Kirsh is also a Peter Pan figure, and maybe he's the shadow version to Cavalier's colorful Peter Pan, does this mean that Kirsh might want to replace Kavalier and be the real Peter Pan, somewhat in the similar way that your shadow will take over if you don't, stop it?
So Kavalier, I think he doesn't realize that Kirsh is slowly taking over already, because Kirsh is the one who knows everything that's going on the island. He can see it from a tablet. And while Kavalier can, I don't think Kavalier cares enough to. But Kirsh can and does, and probably doesn't sleep, and has more capacity to actually keep tabs on everybody.
Yeah, I mean, Kirsh he's destabilizing his island. So he either just wants to bring him down because he secretly works for Yutani or has some other chaotic agenda. But a major possibility is that he is literally going to take over as CEO of the company if something happens to Kavalier. It definitely seems like he, like you said, he's the one that's really running the show. I really think that Kirsh could want to replace Kavalier. Kavalier's been so dismissive and rude to him. You know, Kavalier's going on and on about, oh, really would just love to have a conversation with somebody smarter than me. Kirsh is standing right there. Like, bro, he's a lot smarter than you.
Yeah, he constantly talks down on Kirsh, like to everyone, not just to Kirsh, but about Kirsh with other people, and Kirsh isn't even there. What you just said about Kirsh taking over for Kavalier. So in corporate world, when companies acquire other companies, sometimes they're nice and say it's a merger, but it really can be, and most of the time is a hostile takeover. And what happens when a company takes over another company is that all the C-level executives, so like CEO, CTO, you can't have two CEOs. So the company is taking over, that CEO will fire the existing CEO. So if we have Kirsh and Kavalier doing the same job, we only need one of them. And I think Kirsh is honestly more capable of running Prodigy than Kavalier is.
Yeah, and obviously there's this open question of what restrictions, like what Android law restrictions Kirsh might be under. What is his programming? Who programmed him? Was it Kavalier? Was it Weyland-Yutani? I'm assuming they're going to reveal some of that because all of those answers are going to be very impactful on the story. So they're not leaving those out by accident. Surely those reveals are coming. The episode was called Emergence, and the first thing that I thought of when I saw that title was how that's used in the context of artificial intelligence, like the emergence of a real, actually self-aware artificial intelligence, which as of right now is only fiction. We don't know if that'll ever actually happen, but buying the premise that it's happened in this world, these AIs are learning on their own. So the Kirsh AI is a unique thing. Once it was created and set free and programmed, it's been learning and evolving on its own. So it is now a unique intelligence. And yeah, what constraints are on it? What does it want? This is the thing that is emerging, is the Kirsh agenda. We're only just seeing it piece by piece. But they've revealed to us that, yeah, he's a chaos agent. Like, he knew what was going on. He didn't stop the kids. This was all a plan to catch Morrow. He basically sacrificed Arthur, and he got a free xenomorph out of the deal.
And if we look at the idea and consider that Kirsh is Peter Pan's shadow, if Kirsh was created, and obviously you just said this, we don't know, by Kavalier, when you program something, there's a bias from the programmer. And there is something to be said, and there's commentary on it in real life, that depending how you program an AI engine, it will have its own constraints, like what it will and won't talk about with you. So Kirsh could have been birthed by Kavalier and slowly take over. So that would be their little connection of Peter Pan and his shadow. Wendy sews them up at the foot. So it's just another example of how they could be connected in that way.
Yeah, when I thought about that, Wendy sewing the shadow back to Peter Pan, I was like, that could translate in a really dark way, potentially, in this show where everything is all twisted. What's going to be sewn together here exactly? I don't know. I'm afraid to speculate, but that could be really twisted. Wendy's not going to be trying to help Kavalier anytime soon. I think she's turning against him pretty hard, so.
I mean, she even told Curly, he's not your friend. And then Curly, comes back and is like, he's just trying to help people. So we can already see Wendy having a little breakup with Boy Kavalier. I think she's also known that from the beginning, that Kavalier really isn't on her side, even though she is the favorite. I think she's always had a little feeling about him.
She's only ever been sort of trying out his little philosophical talking points, but not really grabbed onto them totally. Like, she said that yes place thing, but I think her brother's points landed as well. And Noah Hawley, by the way, commented on what a crazy thing it is to say, oh, this is a yes place. He's like, if the architects are telling you the building's going to fall down, it should be a no place until we get that sorted out. So
a yes place, but there's mold everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes to mold.
Yes to mold. Oh, it's so disgusting. There's so much of it. Between his feet, how would you walk around barefoot in such a moldy ass building? Maybe it's all coming from his feet.
Oh, see, this is why I was so upset last time, because he's out with them dogs. I will drive home this point. Feet are gross, but Boy Cavalier, he knows it's nasty there. That's the thing, is the building is constantly being worked upon. So how twisted is he to walk around with his feet out?
No, he's the virus. That's all his foot fungus on the walls. That's my headcanon now. It's all from his feet. But Miki, I think we should commend ourselves. we've gotten however long it is into this video. We haven't talked about Teocellus. We haven't talked about iBug. Who is Piebug? He's Piebug. He knows pie.
Honestly, what if that's how Wendy sews Peter Pan's shadow back on? What if iBug is what she sews?
Yeah, when you think about beings being sewn together, like those are the two. iBug's the one that can sew into people. So yeah, we were right. He can speak English. He can understand the speech that's going on around him. We know that now. Not only that, but he knows pie. Like, he's smart. I don't know. I didn't know that. So the sheep is smarter than me.
Imagine iBug gets it wrong. Just straight up. He's just dumb.
It's like, wait, I know this. Damn it. No, but that was super creepy. The deliberate taps, like, that was very unnerving. And you saw how excited Kavalier was, like, oh my gosh. So I think the next episode, I don't think iBug is going to take over Kavalier yet. I think it's going to get in a human. And one of the last things in the episode is surely going to be the thing talking. And the mic drop is going to be, what the hell is it going to say?
I'm scared, honestly. I don't want it to happen. It's going to be really interesting when it does happen, but because thus far we've only heard it speak Xenomorph. I guess that's what we're going to call that language, Xenomorph language.
And it did a sort of cry, like Shmi did a roar, like polyphonic roar, but that was about it. It's going to talk. Cthulhu's going to talk to us. And what is it going to say? As a writer, like, what would you write for it? Like, what a challenge. I can't wait to find out. But I think we're not going to see it take Kavalier yet. We got more seasons coming, guys. Like, this is not all going to be tied up next episode, but it's definitely going to talk.
Remember when Kavalier was giving props, I guess you could say, to iBug for orchestrating the Tootle situation? But Kirsh is like, they're like, I've been watching the situation. What do you mean? But I know Kirsh set it up. Like, he just watched it happen. So it just made me think about how Kavalier's putting iBug like higher and higher on this pedestal. He's giving all this attention to iBug and not to Kirsh, which they're both dangerous to him. Like, don't get it twisted. iBug can very much like kill Kavalier, but Kirsh is so dangerous. But I guess that he's just out in the open and so unassuming that Kavalier doesn't see it, but it's going to come for him. Like, I'm waiting for it to happen.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, Miki, because it occurred to me that there are a lot of parallels between the Teocellus and Kirsh that follow the Peter Pan stuff that we've been talking about. So just as Kirsh observes everything on the island and can hear everything, iBug is observing and listening. And we know now that he is absorbing and processing everything that is said around him in English. And they've now moved him into the proper place, the CEO's office, where he can get the CEO updates about how the alien has escaped and we don't know where Wendy is. iBug is plugged in. He knows everything. That is just like Kirsh. And here's the best part. You're going to like this. Okay, so Peter Pan, horned figure, chaos god. Kirsh, the shadowy form, lord of the underworld. Well, I just said the Christian devil, the Baphomet, and lots of scary things can also come from this mythology. Well, iBug is in a sheep. And not only is he in a sheep, he's in a horned sheep. Those sensors that they put on his head look like horns. So everybody was getting the satanic goat vibes, even without the goat horns, okay? This thing is the devil. And I've seen people make videos, this is the devil. Like, yes, Teocellus is also this demonic horned god figure, but he's the darkest version. He's the Cthulhu version. He's from the chaos realm. That's the kind of thing we're dealing with here. It's the devil.
And also, thinking about it, Kirsh is an AI. He knows everything. He's learning everything. He would have a little inkling of iBug's capabilities, as he's a literal eye and eyes watch things. So when setting up the lab, I feel like he was just waiting for something to happen by not isolating iBug, because he just left him out in the middle of the lab watching things. That's like iBug's deal, as he observes. So it's just another example of Kirsh setting things up. Like, iBug's going to take over very much because Kirsh allowed it to happen. Like, Kirsh is really the puppet master, I think.
And you can see they're both doing the same things. They're both running experiments in the lab, essentially. iBug is running experiments too. He's crashing the androids and the aliens together, either to see what happens or to cause chaos. We're not sure. But it's kind of similar with Kirsh. We don't know if he's causing chaos or just learning and running experiments, but they're doing the same stuff. again, observing silently, puppeting people. They're both sort of imprisoned by Kavalier, and they might try to escape essentially by taking over. Ibug might take over Kavalier's body. Kirsh seems to be taking over his company and his island, and both tied to the horn god mythology. Like I'm loving the show the more I think about it.
Yeah, I also love this show. And I did have a question. Do you think Kirsh is capable of learning xenomorph language just by observing Wendy? Because Kirsh is an AI, he's ever learning. So I wonder if Kirsh could learn that language and could attempt to control the xenomorph, like how Wendy is.
That's a great question. He should be able to at least learn from listening to Wendy. He may not be able to hear in the audible range that Wendy can for the actual xenomorph communication, but he can at least listen to her. That would be great if we saw someone else try to do the dragon tamer, lion tamer trick and have it fail, kind of like our boy Quentin tries to ride a dragon in Ice and Fire and it doesn't work. Just because the author wants to show you, like, it's not for everyone. Not everyone gets to do it. Yeah, that would be hilarious if someone else tried to control the xenomorph and got. Kirsh obviously can't get got anytime soon. He's in the show for the long run. But that's a good question. Yeah, I don't see why it couldn't. The Kirsh. I mean, Kirsh technically is a computer, so.
Yeah.
All right. But I think we'll wrap it up there and say thank you to everyone for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel because we're a new channel, so you may not be subscribed. Oh, and then if you didn't see, we did do a trailer breakdown video for the episode 8 trailer because it looks like the plant thing is walking on the wall like a giant starfish bat creature that's going to jump on people and swallow them. And that really freaked me out last night, Miki.
Freaked me out too. More than the feet, I would say. Actually, no, not more than the feet, but it's up there. Still the feet.
So thanks again, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Bye.